Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 4 of the Two Brothers podcast. We got a bunch of topics planned for today, but we're going to be starting with, we just came to the mall.
No, actually, you see, you might think we're starting with this, but I got a surprise for you.
Okay, what are we?
We got this right here. This is what don't want to dox where I'm at, but this is a gift from a secret YouTuber. Has sent this all the way.
There's only one YouTuber we both know and talk to. I know who this is from.
Yeah, so...
Okay, so this is a secret. What is this for? This for the podcast?
This is flown internationally. This is... Actually, the story of this is a long time coming.
Okay,
this has been like, I want to say a few months ago, it was like your birthday or something.
Okay, so this is you're telling me you got me a late birthday present.
Oh, I didn't get this for you, but he hit me up. And was like,
so
hey, I want to keep it a secret.
Who's the he?
So the he is Jay Giggs.
Oh, okay.
Absolute famous YouTuber, coolest person on YouTube.
Number one name I've heard.
Mm-hmm. And so I don't know what it is. So I'm curious. And then also very nice of him to do. Big pain in the ass, apparently sending something all the way from
Australia. That's actually like super sweet. Shout out to Jay Giggs. Thank you for. So very few people have ever sent me anything. Mostly companies for advertising reasons. I think this might be the first other YouTuber who's ever sent me anything. I think maybe
that's really cool.
I don't think I'm forgetting any, but all right, this is kind of exciting. Let's see what this is. So we have some papers here. It looks like it's fragile. Okay, so I'm just gonna throw this off screen here. This is like big. What is this?
I have no idea. This is a secret. This is all I know.
Oh man, this is actually kind of. You check. Is there anything else in there? See if there's anything else. What is this? Wait, it says, dude, no way. It says Varrock. Wait, you know what that means? It says Darth Varrock. Wait, RS Teletab. Oh, it's a Teletab. Wait, hold on. Okay, wait, so this is I already know what this is, bro.
Oh, you do?
This is, okay, so I have seen these. I almost bought one of these off Etsy. The Higher Elo Creatives, RS Teletab, Varrock, PayPal. It says check mark.
Let me see. Let me put this.
Put that on the screen there where they can see it.
Yeah, they can see it.
Check that out. Oh, this is kind of this is kind of exciting. RuneScape. Let's go. One of the few.
Higher Elo Creative. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Here we go.
Rip that off.
There we go. I'm trying to be careful with it.
I know.
Oh my God, that is fucking sick. Holy shit! Look at that.
Oh wow.
Isn't that actually? That's like exceptionally well done quality.
Yeah, that's cool.
Look at it. That's a Varrock Teletab for RuneScape. That's an old school RuneScape. Right? That is amazing. Dude, that is that might be the best thing.
Oh, put that right in the middle there?
Yeah.
That'd be sick. So here, can you explain the lore here for people that don't know about RuneScape?
Man, this is actually like pretty cool. So if you don't know what this is, in RuneScape, you have these things called teletabs, and you break them, and it teleports you somewhere regardless of the requirements, and it's a one inventory, one click. So they're very, very commonly used. And Varrock is the like main town, basically, where it has the Grand Exchange, the marketplace. So you're always going to Varrock. So it's, like it's an iconic item, is what it is. It's a nostalgia, iconic item.
That's
Anyone
cool.
who sees this that plays RuneScape is going to know what this is. It's sort of like looking at like a rune scimitar or something like. It's pretty well known, and that is exceptionally well done quality. I don't know if you can see that very well, but like it's.
I think they can. I think that looks pretty cool.
Jay Giggs, that was beautiful, and
super nice,
super
gift.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That is one of the nicest gifts. That might be the nicest gift I got for my birthday. I mean, that's crazy awesome.
I know. I would say there's probably nicer.
Are you sure there's one other?
There's probably nicer, but it's a close second. It's a close second.
You know what? I honestly really appreciate that. That's beautiful. So I had seen those on Etsy, and I hadn't ordered one, but I remember actually thinking I wanted one of these. So I don't know if I ever mentioned that to Jay Giggs or he found that on his own.
He just downloaded it. He knew.
That's actually awesome. So I appreciate that.
Hell yeah.
I'm just gonna see if there's anything in here, and then we can continue with the next one, but. It kind of made my day right there, to be honest. All right, let's see. What do we got here? What are these here? These are like some stickers. Okay, so we got some stickers for the company, Higher Elo Creative. And then we have some SCO stickers for like RuneScape. So I'll probably save those and put those on.
When I hear the company Higher Elo Creative, I was thinking it was going to be something League related.
Yeah, Elo, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I wonder what they're, like, where they started or something, if they have other stuff they sell,
I think I seen their Etsy before, and it was mostly stuff like that, where they have like different games and stuff.
Okay.
I only saw those RuneScape related things, so I'm not really sure. But
keep all
I
that.
might check out the rest of it. But that was very sweet. Shout out to Jay Gigs. We'll have a link down below. Check out his channel and tell him thanks for that very sweet present. So that's awesome. Okay, well,
Hell yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Okay, so now back to regularly scheduled programming.
Regularly scheduled programs.
So what were you gonna say?
So I needed some new shoes. My shoes are pretty old. The shoes that I was wearing for like 10 years that I got in college from an internet girlfriend back in the days from college that I was playing Maple Story with from Canada. She sent me some shoes and I wore them for like 10 years.
Such a wild story.
Wild story. And so I needed new shoes. I threw away the old ones because they got so ratty and you could just see the plastic through them. So I got some new shoes. These aren't anything crazy. They're just like pretty standard Jordans, but I thought the colors were cool. Although, maybe they're a little controversial in terms of color choice. It's kind of like
this is a big Lakers fan. This whole
I'm not
his whole
really
life.
even a big Lakers fan, but I thought the colors were kind of cool. So I just got some kind of basic shoes that will work, and they're replacing. I'll show you the old ones. Hold on, I'll grab the old red.
These have been around a long time. These have been.
They're replacing these ones. These ones aren't so old.
These are these the?
No, these ones aren't so old. These are the. I got these ones a few years back.
I like the old school Air Jordan logo. I think that's cool. I'm not into sneakers at all, just to kind of give you guys an idea.
Yeah,
but
I'm not really super into sneakers either. But I figured, hey, I'll get a pair. So anyway, that's what we got at the mall today. We went to the mall. We checked that out. And, we got the present from J-Gig. So that was our unboxing.
Oh, yeah. Unboxing experience for, the 4th episode of the pod here. I thought it was pretty fun going there. The store that we got this from is probably the most unique mall store I've seen, where it had, like, Jordans. Basically, it was only Jordans, right?
Or there's
Yeezys and stuff like that.
And it was what it is. It's a swap. It's a swap store. So I think most of those are going to be Jordans just because they're probably the most popular. But it seemed like they kind of had everything. I asked them, and you can order stuff there too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but then they were also selling Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
And then they also had other, I forget specifically, but it was the most random assortment of things that I've seen in a store. Like, okay, so you have sneakers, then you have Pokemon cards, but they're not even good Pokemon cards. They're like random PSA 7s and random PSA 8.5s and stuff. And I'm like,
were they not? I didn't take a good look.
And so, but I don't know much about Pokemon cards, but I didn't see a single PSA 9, let alone, and then there were some, so I don't know, but it was just a bizarre thing to have there. It was just like two random stores mashed together.
Yeah, I think it's kind of almost like a hobby store, but then mostly shoes.
Yeah.
So
it would be like going to Bosco's, which is like a card store, but then instead of them selling like board games and anime, they sell shoes.
So I was asking the guys, I was like, have you heard this? Like we were talking last week, have you heard the AI music? And because they're listening to Juice WRLD. And I was like, have you heard this AI music? And they're like, no. I'm like, what kind of? I heard about it, but I hadn't listened to it or whatever. So I'm like, oh yeah, there's some songs that are like sound pretty good. And so they're like, oh, what are the songs? And so then I was like, oh, Winter's Cold, like, Hard on My Sleeve, like try listening to these. And then they're like, what, by Juice? And I'm like, nah, it's by Drake. It's like a Drake AI. And they're like, I don't even care. Like, as soon as I hear it's Drake, whatever. So I was like, that's kind of
and the store smelled like weed. Like it.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Like,
you walk in, it's like
100% what you would expect. Like going into a place like
it's
that.
like in the middle of a mall.
Yeah, middle of a mall, and like you have Foot Locker, all these other things, and then boom, this one random store that is like super. You would expect to find this in some strip mall, like randomly. Like, oh, that's a cool store, but I would never expect to see something blatantly like what's going down in here like that in the mall.
And then I forgot my PIN number for my card, so I was like, hey, like I don't know my PIN. Can you run this credit? He's like, I'm gonna need to see your ID. I'm like, yeah, don't worry. And my card wasn't signed on the back. I'm like, I swear, it's not what it looks like.
Yeah, no, yeah. If I got that too, I would be like, I need to see some ID.
Yeah, buying shoes with a card, so sketch. But so we got some fun topics today. We have a few different ones we're gonna go through. I think the one we should start with, though, tell me what you think. We can either start with Mandalorian season finale, or we can go. You think start with the Mandalorian season finale? Well, let's just cover that, and then we'll talk about the game stuff.
We've been basically covering every episode.
We have. So
let's close that out. Close this chapter. And move on from it. So I think we can start from there.
How do you want to dig into this then? Do you want to? Should we give our synopsis and how each of us feel?
Let's go with what was your
spoiler
expectations?
alert now.
Yes, spoiler alert. Okay, well, let's start with your expectations going in to this episode. What did? Because I think based on how good a show is always going to be based on your expectations. Like I could go watch Hercules with The Rock, and my expectations were low, but I leave happy because I knew going in that it was going to be just a fun action movie. But then I go into like the final in like the Batman trilogy. Like you have Dark Knight, that's amazing, but like you get a movie that's pretty good, but it's not nearly as good as Dark Knight, and so it's a bummer.
Sure. Okay, so from the beginning, I think what I expected out of anything was like explanations. I think that's probably the word I'd have to pick. I would want to know the explanation really of the story, because I feel like there's a lot of side quests going on. We know there's the Mandalore, like the whole Return to Mandalore thing going on. I was kind of wanting to see all of these loose ends get tied up, get wrapped up, and kind of bring home a conclusion. And I think we kind of did see that. I will say not in the way that I originally expected. Yeah. You know, it seemed like a lot of happy endings, which I didn't really see coming. I'm not really opposed to it. Yeah. But I will say that we got way more battle scenes than I was expecting. Like I expected a major fight scene between like Gideon and Din or Bo-Katan or whatever, and we got that. But I was expecting that to be like the primary focus. I sure as hell didn't expect like the spaceship to come crashing down. I didn't expect like, you know,
it's like they put their entire budget into this final episode.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, actually, I take it back a little bit, because there was the whole like the pirate battle and stuff like that. But
yeah, you're right.
You can tell that like a lot of the episodes felt very contained. Like whenever like I heard about the volume and I thought the volume was cool, but then you realize like the volume has many limitations and it makes everything feel so tiny. Whereas this is the first episode that all the action and stuff felt like bigger set pieces. That was nice to see. And then I really liked the action. It was finally the first episode I felt like the Mandalorian was actually going back to being a badass. And like I think overall, like I feel like I had the same expectations as you did, where it's like I just want some kind of clarification of what the hell is going on here. Why it was a very weird way to make a season, and then
they were going to wrap everything back in, as I thought I was going to have. It's like, this is why we talked about this is why we talked about this. But I do feel like it felt a little bit like, okay, let's rebuild IG-11, and then we can't do anything with that, so we're just going to throw Grogu in it, and then IG-11 dies in 2 seconds.
Yeah, and like, who gives a shit? And like, who cared about IG-11 to the point where it's like, they're like, oh, we got him back, and it's like, at the end... Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I guess mainly it's just... So now that we got our expectations, like, what is your opinion on what happened?
I feel like they... I'm like a 7.5 out of 10. Because like here's how I feel. It's like I was about to say like what it is I really didn't like about it. Because I mean that's kind of what my instinct is to do on this. But it was a pretty good finale. I mean, I didn't think it was that bad. I definitely have like,
I think it's 7's fair.
I think 7.5. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I think that it felt like they were explaining large parts of the story with like the cloning and stuff like that earlier in the season, that then just got shoehorned into like, well, did we set up all that cloning just from Moff Gideon to make
one line?
Yeah. So it felt to me like we got a finale that closes out all of the like plot holes, but then they just like kind of dropped the bag on some of the what I felt were like more developing side quest type of stories that were going on that didn't make a ton of sense to me. So I didn't feel like 100% satisfied by the ending, but I felt like they were going for 100% satisfying ending with like the ending where he's at his house and he's kicking back and he's got a little cabin and Grogu's playing with the frogs. Like they went with like a it's over type of vibe.
Well, I feel like what they ended up doing is they wrapped everything up and then they had a ending that could either be, they don't know where they're going to go. Like this felt very, it just felt very like they're going to either come back to the show down the line or they're just never going to touch it again for a very long time. And they just wanted to have an ending that covers both of those scenarios.
Yeah. I also feel that Mandalorian at the end fell prey a little bit to like the same thing Boba Fett did, which is we have another show coming. And so what we're going to do is take the last end of this show and try to wrap it into the other one. And I think that's my biggest problem. I don't necessarily think the season 3 of Mandalorian, including the finale, was that terrible. I think there was some bad episodes in it. We had our complaints we've talked about on the pod, which we don't have to rehash. But like, I have my sticking points with it, like most people do with this season.
Yep.
But I feel like the major problem isn't actually this season or this show. It's what they've been doing every single show, which is we have another show coming. Thrawn is the new big bad.
Well, they didn't even tease him. They didn't even bring him up. Like
they did.
When?
They brought Thrawn up during the meeting.
They talked about him where they were like Thrawn, and then it was like, where is he? But then we don't even get a reveal of Thrawn or anything, even though we know that he's going to be coming in the next show. They didn't even like bring him up.
That's fair.
I feel like the issues of this season seem to be weird back end stuff on the direction, because it seems like it's almost like the show was doomed to fail from the beginning because of that whole Book of Boba Fett thing, where it's like you have this great ending of season 2, then they shoehorn the changes into not even season 0 episode, season 3 episode 0 or 1.5 or 0.5 or whatever. Then you have he's already back with Grogu, and then you have this random kind of meandering thing. But then also you can kind of tell that it's like the main characters weren't even there. Like it feels like there's multiple people with a massive scheduling conflicts where it's not that big of a deal for the main character because he's just going to be voice lines that they're not going to show him. But then it also felt like with Moff Gideon, it's like, I have time for 2 episodes. Just like, I let's just speed run this. I'm here for 2, and then we'll close it. And so it just felt like super meandering for 6. And then you have the thing that matters at the end. And then by the end of the season, nothing actually, there's no ramifications.
The other thing is I feel like what you're talking about with Boba, like having effects for it, is what's going to happen with the next one. Because, for instance, the cloning thing, the clones didn't actually matter in this Mandalorian. Like he blew them up at the end, but he never had to fight against all the clones. Maybe Moff Gideon at the end was a clone. That is a potential. Could be somehow he returns again, and that wasn't the real one they killed. Sure, so be it. But none of the clones actually mattered for any of the story. So it's like they threw this in there only so, in my opinion, the Thrawn one's going to talk about cloning and Force sensitive and stuff like that. Like, there's no reason for them to have that plot line in the Mandalorian right now, unless the next Mandalorian season is going to build upon that, or the Thrawn's going to build upon that.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to justify how somehow Palpatine returned, and that is why they have the clones. I do like that they threw in a little bit where Moff Gideon was targeting himself, like he wanted to clone himself.
Yeah.
But they have the capability of the cloning, so then it retroactively justifies Palpatine having clones. And then also how he wanted to inject the Force into it.
They had to add the Force sensitive cloning, because I think they also needed to explain, why does Palpatine have a literal choir of Sith?
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck are these people? Like, that was my biggest problem with the whole lightning fingers aside, where he zaps 1 million spaceships in 2 seconds.
Yeah, it was
that shit was the worst thing in all of Star Wars. That makes me more angry than the dagger or anything. But the choir makes zero sense.
Yeah, the random people that were there, and then also I think the thing that I hated the most was the Star Destroyers, and they all can blow up a planet. And then how he would raise it. So he raised them up, which is stupid. And then also, it looks like, when you take digital assets and you copy and paste them, how they're perfectly in a little line.
Dude, you're making me so mad.
Yeah, and so it's like you could tell that, like, the people that did it, it's like they took one asset and then they just duplicated a shitload. It's so funny looking.
I mean, I'm not against them trying to retcon the sequels and make them better. I mean, I get it.
They're doubling down on it hard with Rey coming back, and then the shows. It's almost like the shows, and I would have never guessed. I was hoping that they were going to do the opposite, where it's like they use that room that Ahsoka was in and then like make a new timeline. I was hoping it was just a new timeline. Well, I think people would have bought into that way more than
I don't think they
Rey
can.
Back and then,
okay, so so they are. Okay, how to put this? They are changing a lot of the Star Wars universe. For instance, like Mandalore being rebuilt, basically, and they're like redeveloping Mandalore. As far as I'm aware, in Legends, like Mandalore didn't come back.
Well,
so
Legends don't give a shit about it. Yeah.
That's where I'm going with this. So what we have is a canon change in terms of what was previously established with Mandalore. So I'm kind of...
Well, they've already completely threw Legends out the window. Like, nothing that they've done is built upon Legends. So they don't give a shit what they would have done there, because, they've already done massive canon changes to the Luke.
Yeah. Well, right. But what I'm trying to say is every time that you make a massive canon change, they're going to set it up for a reason. Like they're not just going to have Mandalore recovers and then they never do anything with it. Is my point. Like Disney always sets one thing up to go into the other, to go into the other, to go into the other. So it's I don't know if season 4 is they set up Mandalore so that season 4 is them rebuilding it, and now they're arguing we have a Game of Thrones thing, who's the leader. Like I don't know if that's where they're going with it, but this is like a new. Like pretty new.
They threw that one line in. It was like, oh, you got to take him on his journeys, and then so it's like it makes it to where it goes right back to basics. Like it's like they have like a lore reason to. Oh, it's just Grogu and Mando now. Like because it seems like they've decided, regardless of what's good for the story, it's like we want Mando and Grogu in shows together so we can capitalize on making toys for Grogu. And they were like, okay, you gotta have a line there.
But that's why, like everyone was like, oh, IG-12, it's so cute. Like he's in the thing. No, yes. For me, it was just like.
I feel like that's the cute moment for like, the majority of people that are watching it. But I feel like that only works if the show is as popular as it was in season 1 and 2. Whereas now, I think the viewership has fallen off.
I think it's fallen off because of the early episodes of season 3, but I do think it worked. Like, I think I'm the minority that thinks that was a cool
I think the majority of people are going to be like, that's cute. And then also it's perfect for toys and stuff like that. I think it's just kind of random that they're like, at the end, he's going like, oh, I want IG-11. Like, how many people, like, mass audience, like, even give a shit about IG-11? Like, I don't really think anyone...
I don't think many people did. I think... The problem is they want their cake and eat it too. Like they want to have the sacrifice moment, but IG-11 come back and then they're like, maybe we shouldn't do that, and so they put him as like Grogu toy or something. Maybe that was the plan the whole line. It didn't feel like the plan the whole time. That he's IG-12 now. Like I mean, okay. I mean, you made a mech warrior for Grogu that's factually worse than what he already had. First of all, because I mean, he literally had to use his hands to stop stuff. He didn't have grenades, weapons of any kind. So it was a mech warrior that does a worse job than his force powers. So for me, like, it was all kind of like, okay, well, they literally did it for the memes. Like, yes, no, yes, that was the biggest thing that happened.
100%, yeah.
Okay, so whatever. I mean, that's not a huge complaint, though. So back to the Mandalore thing, though, because I had the point here I want to make. You're talking about the Ahsoka timeline thing, where it's like Ahsoka has all these different timelines. Every time they go off of canon and, like, do a huge retcon, like Kyber Crystal is an example, okay? How bleeding of the Kyber Crystals is the thing and all that was never canon, for Kyber Crystals. So the whole new concept of Kyber Crystals is like something they had to rewrite and all that, but they did it for reasons related to what they wanted to produce from the show, right? Whereas if they go this Ahsoka timeline thing where they go the multi-dimensional type of thing, I feel like there's too much pushback with that for that to work, whereas the Ahsoka timeline would be retconning too recent of stuff. Like we already had Rebels, so you can't really change what that was then.
Yeah, you just go like, that'll happen. That happened, and then you just go a different direction with the sequel trilogy and have some kind of explanation of what's going on, or at least give us some hope that Luke is not going to be this. It just seems so lame that it's what's going to happen is it's like Luke fails and Rey does all the things that he was supposed to do, and it's just such a bummer.
I'm 50, so I'm 50-50 on Rey. I don't think Rey is by herself a bad character. I don't think she's a terrible character, a terrible concept. I think it's pretty staple Star Wars shit. Like some random person has powers and all that. I think it's
just Luke. It's like they just copy and pasted Luke, and then made it a girl, and then, but she's like way stronger.
Yeah, I mean, so the power levels are where we're going to get into like issues with it.
The thing that I didn't like is that I didn't like the main 3 characters. It's like the main 3 characters didn't get along ever in the show, and they were never really on screen. Like
you're talking the sequel trilogy?
I'm talking like Finn, Rey, and Poe.
See, I feel like Finn was a missed opportunity.
He was a massive missed opportunity. I think he
was the best character. That's my take.
I think he would have been if they did him right, where it was like initially they ruined him from the start with him defecting, and then 2 scenes later he's cheering that he's killing his stormtrooper.
That's a little weird, and the whole like blood on the stormtroopers and stuff. Yeah, like that's way different.
Yeah, it started off really well, and then I don't know. I feel like it's just they're so talentless and so copy and paste. It's like in episode 4 when they would shoot down TIE fighters, they would cheer, so they have to cheer. So in the other one they had a Death Star, so then this one has a Death Star. In the other one they were on a remote planet, so she's on a remote planet. It's literally just imagine if you could make millions. Literally just fucking verbatim every fucking scene copying it.
But then all they're going to do is they'll make the Finn story and make a TV show about it where they'll just make these they'll show the confliction, they'll retcon that again. They'll make a Finn, which I'm actually for. I just think that the sequel.
I feel like they double down. They make a choice and they double down. They've proven that like they make a terrible choice to somehow Palpatine return. They make a whole subplot in Obi-Wan, in Mandalorian. All to double down on the clones.
Okay, yes, but here's the thing: like the ship has sailed on the sequels. They can't say that their sequels are no longer canon. Are they just going to admit a mistake? They can't do that.
They can't do that. I understand that aspect, but you make a story around it. What they're doing is nope, that's the story. There it is.
Yeah, they're trying to flush it out so that it's like, okay, let's explain away all of the shit, and then we'll have a cohesive story so we can continue. It seems like what they're trying to do is put everything in like, okay, let's fix all the plot holes, it feels to me like they're trying to write themselves out of the problem. And then once they're in this spot where it's okay, now we're looking to the future, then we're going to start seeing new Star Wars content from the future perspective instead of having to go back to the Old Republic and all these other times and talk about stories that already people know about. I think they just want to have infinite new shit to write in a universe that they're creating as they go. Like, I think they're trying to get to the point where they can farm infinite content
they don't
by just making up new characters.
Right now, I think they probably look at the original trilogy as like an annoyance that they have to keep writing stuff around it.
I would think so.
Yeah, and then they want to not do that. They want to, like what you're saying, like they want to just have infinite, like, okay, we screwed up, but we need to double down, and this is the pain point, and then we're eventually going to be able to do whatever the hell we want.
They're trying to give people that are OG Star Wars fans enough explanation for them to come back into the fold and be like, okay, I get your explanation, I'm okay with it, let's just continue. Like, they're trying to
that would be ideal, but I don't think people are going to buy it. I think, but also at the same time, I think people are going to give them a shot. Unfortunately, it's like I want to like it. But I just feel like a lot of the choices that they're making is a bummer.
I get it, but I mean, I get that because the content that's being delivered right now isn't probably the content we were hoping for at the moment. But I also believe that it's kind of working. Like, I buy it. Like the Palpatine Returns thing. I don't like the sequels. I don't think the sequels are any better for having been retconned. But at least they have an explanation that connects the previous with the now. An
explanation. Those characters I just don't care about. Like, I don't want...
That's fair.
I just don't want to see any more stories with them.
It's weak writing. Yeah. There's no getting around that. Yeah. Well, I mean, I do like Finn. Like, and the sequels, I feel like Finn was a good...
I need a dagger to, like, find a map that makes me find a reason to care about them. Like, if they're... Like, that's what I would...
Well, and Phasma was a good character, too. I feel like there was a couple really good...
character. I just don't...
You didn't like Phasma?
I thought it was a cool... I think a lot of the characters that he set up in the first one were all cool characters that had potential, but didn't realize their potential.
I would have to rewatch the sequels to actually focus on Phasma. They have a real good opinion.
Because then they kidnap her, and she it was like they kind of turned her into a little like a goof in the first one.
I thought she went out like fighting.
Well, basically. they like kidnapped her and like she gave up information. In the seventh one. Yeah. So
I don't. Okay. No, I see where you're going with it.
And so then it was like she has a cool look. And then, if anything, I like the set that they were doing with Finn, where it was like the guy goes like traitor, and then like more of that, where it's like I thought that was cool. Like, I don't know, what you're saying, where it was like Finn was the coolest character, and like I've never seen such a missed opportunity as Finn was. Like, I think Finn should have been the main character, and then it should have been his whole thing, and then it would have humanized a lot of the First Order, and then they could have talked about why the fuck the First Order is even happening. Like, that would have took a brain, and that would have took like a lot of writing to do it. And I don't think that they would have done it, like, based on what happened and how copy and pasted it was. It like legitimately annoys me that people can even get away with it. Like, like they bought it and then they carbon copied something like that. It just blows my mind. But like, think about how cool it would have been where, okay, shitty stuff happens. Like, how is it in 20, 30 years that there's this extremist organization that wants to, basically murder trillions of people? It's like, that's like basically the plot of the first movie. And you now have it from the perspective of a guy that's been indoctrinated in that but wants to get out, and then you can have this really interesting story there.
How I agree is that Finn's story is the more interesting of the stories. I agree. I actually think that Rey's story and Finn's story could have both been improved by focusing on them together. Like, instead of Kylo Ren, who happens to be the leader of that, and some random fucking person in the middle of a desert somewhere that happens to be important. They have a Force connection for some reason. And Palpatine's plan was suddenly she figures this out. So I instead of having that connection, have it be like, oh, well, one of the Empire's troopers who's a random nobody and her are a random nobody. They both happen to be Force sensitive. They discovered together. They already kind of had like the love story interest between Rey and Finn that they just dropped. Remember the whole like, I got something to tell you, etc.
They literally drop it mid-movie. Mid-movie.
And they just give it, it's like, what were you going to tell him? Yeah. And then they never mention it again. It's like there's something there, and they've shown him to be somewhat Force sensitive.
The reshoots. I would bet money on this that they had that in the end scene. They would have said something, but that whole end was all rewritten and all reshot.
I would agree with that. It seemed to me like they had to make Rey and Kylo work together, and I would have rather see that Finn doesn't understand now that he's around Rey. It's not like Kylo and Rey were together. Like they've never been around each other, just randomly seeing each other, and they happen to know each other because of TV. Like that, she knows him because he's the fucking Emperor. It's not like they've ever really interacted. They're just having these forced Skype calls. So, but Finn and Rey are together, have some kind of interactions together, and are both experiencing like this Force sensitivity shit.
Yeah, like that would have been way better. I think it's so funny, like that movie, the amount of times Finn would scream Rey.
Right.
Like imagine. Okay, like the way because when I was watching it in theaters, I was thinking that was so annoying. And imagine we're playing Halo, and you're in a gunfight, and I just go, Casey. And then you're in the middle of a fight, and then I'm just screaming your name, and then it's just so stupid.
They got me. They got Chewie.
Yeah, and then because there's one part where like probably my favorite part of the movie, you know, like watching it from it's like so bad it's kind of funny kind of thing, where he like screams her name for like the 10th time, and then she's in the middle of a sword fight, and she just like force pushes him down. I'm like, thank you. He's so fucking annoying right now.
Get the fuck out of the way. Yeah,
shut up. I'm in the middle of a life and death.
Stormtrooper. You got butchered in a half a second by the actual Jedi. So shut up and let the women do the work.
Let me, fight in this like life or death sword fight, and then you're screaming at me. What are you gonna do? Like, you're not helping at all.
Let's not forget, he picked up a lightsaber and fought against a trained Sith and held his own. Yeah. So for me, like, they forgot that part of the story. We've already seen with like the Darksaber.
Well, I thought that whole scene had potential if they were gonna set it up like him having the Force powers and stuff.
That's
like that.
where I'm going.
Yeah,
like it does.
I like that direction. I just think it's unfortunate the direction that they took it, where it's like she ends up beating him in a fight, and then they didn't really clearly show that. Yes, he got shot with the bowcaster and stuff like that, but it was like it should have been. He wins, the stuff breaks apart, and then she's like a noob, but he's been trained. The thing breaks apart, and then it saves her. Because what is the point of a show where in the first episode she learns about this and bodies the guy with training? That'd be so embarrassing.
Yeah, I don't like that she won literally every fight. And I also thought the show would have been a lot better if Rey actually became the Sith and Kylo becomes the Jedi. And it's not because... I think Kylo's like the better character. I actually think Kylo's kind of a shit character too. Like I don't think he's exactly that amazingly well written. He's Darth Vader 2.0, whatever. And so you have this guy who's just like kind of an emotional dude. He's the one swinging his emotions around. You know what I mean? He's willing to kind of go back and forth. He has the Luke redemption arc. He killed his dad. Like there's a lot of reasons for him to have regret. And I guess he does kind of become the good guy at the end, but it feels a little lame.
It's like super shoehorned.
Yeah, it's like at the last, he becomes a good guy because of love, because he saw some girl in the Skype vision. It's like he has no reason to like her. He's the Emperor, like he should.
Kylo, he simps out.
Whereas,
he leaves the Sith because
And the healing powers is what Palpatine wanted. Whereas Rey's first instance of healing was when she was with Finn, not with fucking Kylo. That was when her first healing. She healed Kylo after she healed the snake. She healed the snake. She was with Finn. So
well, it's just like imagine, and then I think it's funny because that whole idea of doing that is so stupid. Because that point right there, it's like Qui-Gon could have got.
So there's a million people.
Yeah.
To be fair, there's a lot of points to point out. There's also points where you could actually say that there is somewhat canon because we have Darth Maul survives through rage alone. We have Darth Sion Scion infinitely
yeah.
survives through being broken apart. We have people who don't manage to necessarily heal, but keep themselves together through the dark side of it. So if the dark side is allowing you to keep yourself from dying, it's arguable that the light side will allow you to rejuvenate yourself.
Yeah.
I just think it's weird that Palpatine gets to harness a light side power.
Yeah.
Which I guess isn't a light side power, so
Yeah.
force power.
I feel like we can go.
We go in circles for days
yeah.
because it's just not a good sequel trilogy. And
Yeah.
we're kind of talking about Mandalorian, but that's our take on Mandalorian. And you see, that's the problem with Mandalorian is it gets you talking about the sequels.
Yeah,
Like-
well, exactly. I feel like that is the problem with them doubling down because it brings you back to, okay, they've explained a certain point, but then it brings you back to that show, and then you realize that there's a million things that are a problem with that. And I think that's just a massive problem to keep reminding. It'd be like, what is like your worst YouTube video? You're absolutely you wish you could take it back, but then you just keep making YouTube videos justifying how bad that other video was.
Yeah, and then constantly reminding
and then at the
people
end of the video, you link back to that video, like please rewatch it. Yeah, it's like
that's a pretty good metaphor. So we could go back and forth about the sequels all day. We're not going to disagree about more or less any of
and
this.
I think that's why the discourse on Rise of Skywalker was so short, whereas like Last Jedi was so long because it was like truly divisive. Whereas the other one, everyone agreed that it was shitty. So it's like, what's the point of dunking on it? Because everyone agrees that it's shitty. Yeah, and so
it's not overwhelmingly well received, and I don't even think the characters were necessarily all trash. I just think they were written badly. Like I still don't think Rey's like a horrible, terrible character.
Everything around her, like the things that she did, like she's fine. But like I think it's pretty easy to be a fine character.
Yeah.
It's just. You need to have an engaging story around
or some growth. Like they didn't really give her the potential to like fail in order to get better. I feel like every other Jedi we've seen fail. I
feel like we know nothing about this character at all. It's just like it's like okay, misses her parents or didn't really have parents. Goated at everything, and then that's it. Like there's no incentive like where she wants like when it comes to the war. Like there's so many things that we don't know about the character, so it's like hard to say she's just a blank canvas. And all I know is around the story, I don't like the direction that they went, so it's like I'm not blaming her. I think they're all good actors and actresses as well. I don't think any of them is bad. Like the only times I've seen like blatantly bad acting was in Obi-Wan, where it was like that's just terrible acting. And whereas in this, it's like I feel like they're all good actors. It's just the story around him is bad. So it's like I don't mind.
Yeah.
That like to be honest,
because
like,
Daisy I didn't think Daisy acted very bad. Like I mean, she did a
there's
good
nothing
job
bad about her acting. In my opinion, it's kind of like Game of Thrones. Like all the actors and actresses killed it. It's just the writing is so dog that I'm not gonna like the show. But it's like I'm excited when I see people from Game of Thrones in things because they're good. And so it's kind of that's how I look at it. Where it's like the writing around it, I think, is the thing that's probably the most important thing on if I'm going to like or dislike a show. But it's not like I'm criticizing the people themselves.
Well, here's another argument, and then we'll wrap up the Star Wars conversation because this is a good chunk. I know we like Star Wars a lot, so that's where we're going. But the other part of it is I'm not against having different types of stories for different people that like different types of stories. If we're going to have a Star Wars one that we think's badly written, but maybe it appeals to a different crowd other than us, maybe it's a younger generation, maybe it's for the kids, or something. Sure, okay, that I'm okay with that. The only issue I have is I'm okay with explaining away and all that, but linking everything back to that story, like that's the main story. When it's like, okay, the sequels, I'm not really interested in rewatching the sequels a million times, but I'm not going to give up on. I'm not angry at Star Wars, so I'm not going to give up at Star Wars because I didn't like the sequels. But if we cram in the sequels over and over and over and over and over again into every new project, then I might not want to watch all the Star Wars. Luckily, I feel like they're doing the balance where it's like they're trying to explain it without forcing us to watch them. They're trying to tell new side stories, etc. So I'm not really against like the Imperial spy angle of learning about the ISB. I actually thought learning about the ISB from the Andor angle was like I think that was like phenomenally well done. Like, learning about the spies and
everything Andor related. I don't think they fumbled any story. All they did was just enhance Star Wars. Like that was 10 out of 10 Star Wars for me, and it was super good. And it was like, I feel like how bad the other Star Wars has been, it's been very difficult to get people to like, usually it's like, it used to be, I'd be like, hey, watch this. Sure. But with Star Wars, it's like, I don't know, because it's like you have Book of Boba, which was like you could tell was very rushed, and it just feels like it was just phoned in, and it's hard to justify your time when you have all these other shows. Whereas like the people that have watched Andor, they're like, it's amazing, it's awesome, but it is a pretty it's a tough thing to ask based on the previous stuff, but also what it is there's no good hook to it. It's just purely based on the quality of it, which I don't think nowadays is enough to get people to really be hooked on the show. You need to have some kind of excitement there to really get people interested. And I just don't think Andor is that interesting of a character.
I think that's mostly because we have a problem in, this goes to all genres, where it's we have a problem of they believe the IP will carry the genre. So it's Marvel, it's Star Wars, it's whatever. Therefore, you're going to watch it anyway, and then they instinctively only have to do 80% of it, or what it feels like. IP is it feels like they're farming the IP as opposed to building the IP back up, if you know what I mean. And I feel like a lot of this is a fairly negative conversation though, because I actually don't think season 3 was that terrible. I think like it got a little bit of a hard rep in the beginning, which I don't
well deserved. It was just weird. It was like
I don't know.
Point like when it comes to their flagship show, I think this is definitely the worst out of the 3 seasons. And then also the plot is just very, hey, you got to do this to do this to do this. There's no like character growth or anything. It's just all like task-based things. Like
it feels like a lot of side quests on an MMO.
And then you finally decide on episode 6 or episode 7 to like, you know what? I'm going to do a little main story. Let's see what's going on in the main story here.
Okay. That's very fair feedback. But I don't know. I feel like some of the stuff that was negatively received, I actually quite liked. Like the whole side story we have, I think it was episode 3 or episode 4, where the whole side story with the Imperial spy and him getting cooked in the brain. And
I like that one.
I liked that too.
I think the only issue potentially with that one is that's one of those things that is like an investment where it's like, where does it go? Did you just waste an hour of my time? Or in the future, they're going to have something. And I think that is the big issue with that episode is kind of, it's
hard to connect that with what happened with Moff Gideon in the cloning. I get we see her with the probe droid. I get that, he's literally working on clone tech and all that, but it's like, he never actually did the clone stuff. So it's like he went to get the stuff, but he never actually did the research that apparently he got cooked first. Like they went and got everything, but he didn't get to do it.
Like they weren't really clear with that because it sounds like here's what I think they're trying to say. But I don't know if they conveyed it well, where it's like he got the cloning stuff from him, got all that stuff. He cloned himself, got the force powers in there, was successful. Then he's now part of the rebels. So we got to get rid of him because I don't want that technology falling into the hands of other competitors he's the only one that wants to be able to clone stuff. So then we just mind cook his ass. He's done. I have the technology. No one else can do this, and call it a day. But it sounds like he wasn't even successful. Like
that's where I'm at. It's like it doesn't make sense because the whole like needing to get Grogu back, keeping Grogu from the Empire. So it's like he didn't actually do the research yet. So how is Moff Gideon successfully making force-sensitive clones? Or if he was going to, it's like...
Yeah, it sounded... Because from my perspective, like it sounded like he was close. He was like, I'm right there. I'm close to a breakthrough.
How are you close? You don't have the guy anymore. You went out of your way to kill him.
Well, I'm talking about the guy. I'm talking about the scientist.
Oh, right. I thought you were saying Gideon.
I thought he was like, I'm right on the cusp of like a breakthrough here. And then... he's going to go do it, but then they basically kill him.
They set him up to get rid of him, which is like, I can buy the get rid of him angle, but it's like, did he or did he not do the deliverables?
Yeah, I think that is a good point because now that you show the cloning stuff, it's like he was successful. And then his whole arc there would make no sense. It would make sense if he was like, I did it, I was successful, I need to continue on because there's issues or something like that.
Gotten there, done in the lab there, figured like, I got it. Like this is finally got it. And then he gets sold out. And then you see her taking the stuff to the probe droid.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, that connects to Gideon in the future. Then the clones start to make sense. But it didn't, it felt like you're supposed to figure it out.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like I don't know how I'm supposed to figure out those gaps. Yeah. I don't know if when Moff Gideon at the end saying like, I needed to add force sensitivity and he didn't get there. Is that what they're saying? He never really did make him force sensitive? Because that was kind of what I'm hearing. Like he made the clones, but he didn't get the force sensitivity from Grogu, so he didn't get to do it. But it kind of sounded like he was right there anyway. So I don't. So that part was unsatisfying, but I don't actually mind that style backstory where we see the fall of the Republic, we see the Empire still kind of in there. It does sort of retcon some of the sequels.
I also feel like it's a slippery slope too, because it felt very okay. Well, the only way it makes sense that the First Order comes back is if the New Republic is a bunch of idiots. And so now they're just writing them as a bunch of idiots. Like, okay, it makes sense now because they're idiots.
Yeah,
but having to write them as idiots is just lame, because I feel like there's just a way better...
Is it that they're idiots, or is it that the rebellion never really was well structured to begin with? That there was a bunch of people that came together on a one shot out of nowhere?
I would feel better about it if they just wrote that better. Because I feel like, for example, how they're doing the back world dealings with Mon Mothma in Andor is exactly what... Like, oh, this is a rebellion and they got to be super secret. And
see, they didn't seem stupid there.
Yeah, they seem so smart when it comes to how they're doing things, when it comes to making sure that the money's being moved correctly. And she has to be, she's like throwing her husband over the bus kind of thing. About his gambling to cover the fact that she's withdrawing all this money to fund the rebellion. Like,
that was all
these
great.
are all like 3D, 4D chess moves.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
And then now they have to go like 50 IQ to make sure that the First Order comes through. And I just think that is like, if First Order happens, I want it to happen organically and I want it to make sense. Like but the only way it makes sense in an easy way to explain it is by making them stupid. And I don't like that. And
I feel like stupid is not the right word. I feel like it's like, I get what you're saying, but I feel like what it is they're better at a rebellion than they are running the company.
Well, I would like that, but based on how they're acting, it's like, oh, good thing we got people like you, one of the good ones, and it's the spy. Like, what is she doing that is so obviously the good one, and what he's doing that's so obviously bad? It's just...
It did... I agree that The Office, I normally like their Imperial spy stuff. I think they're quite good at that. But I do agree the scene where she was in the office, like overhearing, it's like, why are you in here?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I get like, I'm going to the break room in 20 minutes, but I'm going to sit here for this private conversation.
Yeah, between two people. And then also the level of like bureaucracy and how clunky everything is. It's like they took all of the hellscape bullshit from the Empire that you see in Andor, but then like just copy and paste it. Oh, just kidding. We're now the rebellion now. And so it's like all the terrible stuff. It's like, I want to see some of the things like the main people. And then I would understand, like, for example, Game of Thrones season 1, where you have the righteous guy that is trying to do everything with honor and, you know, Ned Stark. And then he gets his head chopped off because he didn't play the game, you know, like, something
I
like
that from a story perspective better. I agree. Yeah. However, I do think in even reality where we're at, like, there is room for, there's people who they could even be stupid. Let's say you're right. They're just this stupid rebellion. Stupid people can win wars and then collapse because they can't run government.
I just want to see the people that made it happen. Like, for example, Mon Mothma and stuff like that. I want to see something like her, for example, trying to do the honorable thing. She's always still in the Senate
what's
doing the
happening
honorable
with
thing.
Those people?
And then as she stays honorable and they won, now all the people backstab and try to power grab, and then that's what screws over the rebellion. And then that's how First Order starts, is because she tried, but people are going to work in their best self-interest and then fuck her over, and then boom, the First Order happens from something along those lines.
Those are good points. So I think to get into that level of nuance, they're going to need a show about it. Like, I don't think they can fit that level of nuance and all the hierarchy and all that into it, because they're kind of cramming in these little segments.
That would be the only way I can ever be okay with somehow the First Order returned, or, you know, basically the Empire returned. But not only did the Empire return in like 20, 30 years, but it's a crazy extremist version where you have it like, you know, they have these rallies and shit like that where you have, you know, Hux screaming and then boom, trillion of people just dead, multiple planets exploded. How does a place get to that point? Like, you know, tell me how they got so crazy.
Well, they never failed. I think was their way they're going with it. Like, the Empire was never down. Like, the Empire was always around.
Well, I would be okay with it potentially where it's like, we were not oppressive enough. You know, we need more terror. We need more fear.
Fair. I also think the Thrawn storyline is where we're going to get a lot of this too. Because instead of somehow Palpatine return, we're going to get Thrawn's here. He's the 900 IQ guy. And it should be hopefully about logistics and plays and like how he actually comes back. So I think Thrawn is going to tie that bit in you're unsatisfied with into the Star Wars story, or at least I would assume so. You know, speaking of things I assumed that this gameplay footage I saw of Unrecorded was the name of the game, was real. However, it is a body cam. You like the segue?
Oh,
I see you're looking like, wow, this is a stretch.
This is
it's a little bit stretch.
Of all the segues, this was a segue of all time.
This was a segue. It was one of the segues of all time. So, body cam style first-person shooter in Unreal Engine 5 had people legitimately believing that it is real-life footage. Like, people were calling it out as like, this is a hoax.
I haven't seen this. And so people are saying this. What I can do is I'm going to pull it up on here, watch it. We'll also play it here.
Yep.
I'll put it in post.
Put it in edit.
Well, this is okay.
I mean, I was like, okay,
wow.
This is obviously real life footage. Like,
this really does. This is crazy. Okay. Okay, that looks a little with the.
It's the field of blur when he zooms in on the gun. You can tell they have like a field of blur mechanic.
Oh, and then you see the 5 out of 5, like it's trying to be a game. Yeah, I can totally see why people don't believe it's a game. The lighting is super good. Well, yeah. Yeah.
What it looks like is like they took real life footage and then edited it to make it look like a game.
Yeah.
Is what it looked like.
Because usually these kind of things, this would be like the cinematic and then it cuts to the actual gameplay footage.
Exactly.
But I absolutely love the lighting on this.
That is the best looking game I've ever seen.
Yeah. Holy crap. I think maybe it's because it's like a lot of just textures and stuff. You're not seeing faces. So this is something that you could do really well in movies and stuff. Like a lot of like what they can do pretty easily with CGI is like buildings and cars and all that. Whereas like the second it gets to a human face, I think it's going to be a big issue.
Plus it could be rendered gameplay, not actual gameplay, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I'm sure is what it is. Most games actually do that to make the trailers look better, but regardless, it's an impressive tech demo.
Oh, 1,000%. Like, it's crazy because like there's other games that are built on Unreal Engine 5 and they don't look anywhere close.
I mean, Unreal Engine 5 is literally in Fortnite already.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that's crazy. Yeah.
So that is the hot topic right now. Everyone's talking about that. Okay, well, you want to clap and go back in?
We'll. Okay. There we go. We're back. And then, yeah, that's crazy, right? I mean, you guys saw it. We just reacted to it, or at least I did. That was the first time I saw it, and I could totally see why people think that is just like real, like, oh, they're just saying this is a game.
They took real footage, added some edits into it to make it look like a game, used it as a viral, a way to promote their game.
Yeah.
But it's a Steam game. You can wishlist it already. It's using Unreal Engine 5. They've come out and proven that it is in fact gameplay footage, and they've shown the development and all that. So as far as I'm aware, that is 100% legitimate.
Well, that's crazy. Can you imagine like games looking like that, but then also in VR? And then if they can find a way to make
You're making me want to like try to take my VR headset off. Like, what's going on?
Well, like, it's getting to the point where it's so crazy that we're going to be able to play games that look like real life, but in a VR setting.
Okay, let me ask you a hypothetical. Okay, so we get into a setting where a game is with chatbot, MMORPG, chatbot AI, so you talk to somebody, they're responding, you think it's a person, it looks like real life. You cannot tell the difference between real life and the game. Okay, to get you to that point. All right, do you start existentially questioning your real life?
Well, I think there's that whole thing where it's like if we can create a simulation here,
mathematically,
then it's odds are we're a simulation. I don't know. I think those questions.
It's hard.
Like, okay, so when I think of those things, it's like, how does that affect my life? And do I like, let's say,
just for fun conversations, it doesn't affect
basically,
it.
Like, so it's like a whole rabbit hole to go down because it's like, okay, if we can factually prove that this is a simulation, it's like we just have to, maximize what we got. But at the same time, it's like, all right.
Okay, here's my conspiracy theory. What if what we're living right now, we're all AI, okay? And this is the filter to distinguish which AIs are where, the ones that rise to the top or whatever for notability and things like, writing or whatever. This is how they pick and choose which AIs have developed to become the best AIs.
I just wish can we optimize my code? Can we boost it up a little bit? Because this sucks. Like, I
got to work out too much to gain.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It sucks. I got the shitty code. I need is the real version of me like not paying for the highest tier of the so it's like,
you're on the freemium version.
Like there's Eric, and then it's like how like they have those graphs where it's like they have all the checks, like whereas in this version you get check, and then
you're on like the shitty one,
like the mid tier version.
He's all right, you're not gonna get
this sucker right here can get you a little bit of fun, but you're missing a few features that
I paid for the ginger cosmetic or something.
There you go.
Oh man, so. Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah.
So
yeah, but hey, jokes aside, you put that footage together with MMO gameplay, and then you add chatbot live response so that it's constantly procedurally generated, and you have, like that meme from Viva La Dirt League where it's like, how do you create a quest, and he like throws the dart and does it. So you do that, and it's like, dude, you have some games that are like, how do you get people out of them?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We were asking that even back in WoW. WoW alone was doing that to people. So I could really see that, in the relative near future, there's going to be a game that's so, encompassing and checks all the box that your brain needs. Because it's like we just absolutely love the whole progression thing. So it's like they're going to be dopamine down zombies here. So it's like it's going to be pretty crazy. And I think these games are getting there. I feel like it's obviously not there yet. I think VR is going to need some kind of input change, makes it more streamlined and like an easier way, not these like big dorky looking glasses, like some kind of easier way to like, all right, and I'm on, like
it needs to be all wireless.
Yeah.
Okay. It needs to be high enough hertz that you're not like noticing the tearing. All right.
Yeah.
The quality of itself, like hardware wise, needs to be strong enough from an individual piece that you don't have to hook it up to something else. Like if you have to own a $3,000 computer in order to be able to experience this, and then you have to run these cords and all there, like the amount of people that are going to do it is very small. People will prefer to do stuff on their phone over doing that. So for me, it needs to be phone level of ease, where it doesn't have to connect to anything. It's not very heavy. They need to fix the motion sickness problem.
I think the hertz thing is a really important point.
Like the Valve index is like 120 hertz or something.
Yeah, it's just not good enough. I think it needs to be like, I don't know what it would need to be to where we just don't feel it at all.
I think the eye stops noticing the difference. Like they say it's 60 or something, but it's really like 120.
Like maybe there's something else there, or maybe it's a consistency thing where it's like you're getting frame drops. So it's like it can't have any frame drops or anything, because then it finally gets
any jitters, or it take you out of it instantly.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be something along those lines, because I've heard that it's like a really low hertz, you can't tell the difference, but it's like people like,
because I can feel the difference between 60 and 120 hertz.
Yeah, I think there's that, but also people are like, depending on the game, will want like 500 frames, but then they still have the hertz, but it does make a difference apparently, where it's like you have like a 240 hertz monitor, but you go to 500 and then there's still a better
I just kind of feel like the whole can't see past 60 frames thing is kind of capped.
Like it just doesn't seem right. I also feel like your eyes don't use that. Like your eyes are not going off of frames. It's like, but so I don't know the science there, but
I don't know either. I'm speaking out my ass on that too, but I do think that the software is catching up to where, and it used to be that it was software issues. Like you had the hardware for VR, but now the game's kind of blow. But now it's like, okay, software's getting there. Like we're probably back to hardware is the issue now.
Yeah. So it's wild. It's cool to see like all this stuff. It's like this is one of the first AI or like technology things that is not scary. It's like that's just cool. Like high fidelity games are just a cool thing.
Upgrade.
It's just a genuine upgrade. Whereas like the other stuff where it's like the Drake stuff, it's like all these legal ramifications. What if it's my voice ramification? All these kind of things. Whereas this one, it's like, oh, okay, they're just a noticeable upgrade to graphics. Cool.
Yeah, it's a simple like we don't have to have an ethical debate about it.
Yeah.
It's just it looks better. You
Yeah,
know what I
there
mean?
it
There's no side to it. Yeah. So I like that too. So speaking of games, though, there's
Here,
one other game.
Pause. I gotta
pause real quick. All right,
Okay.
we're back.
We are back.
Kyra got his drink, used the restroom. We are back for the conversation. We were talking about games. So I wanted to talk about a new game that's coming out tomorrow, 9 p.m. Our time.
Our time.
Alaska
Okay.
time. It's
It's a
11
bummer
p.m.
that it's still
PDT.
late. I was hoping that I was gonna be able to grind it.
It's a little late. We'll get a few hours. We'll get a few
Yeah.
hours in a launch. So it's. I mean, are we? Is it fair? Are we excited?
I'm legitimately excited about it. I do like that it is a turn-based combat. When it comes to this, it's more my style to be able to kind of chill with it when it comes to it. Because when it comes to these kind of mobile games, it's like these open world ones. They're just such a big ask on your time.
Active grinding.
Yeah, like tons of active grinding and then like exploring and finding
Well,
stuff.
we
So
got
it'd be
D4
nice.
coming up, so it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's going to be nice to have a game that's somewhat passive. I'm assuming we can
Exactly.
farm while we're you're
Yeah.
at work or while I'm playing D4. I can still be progressing on it. So
Yeah, I have been trying to make a concerted effort. Like I don't ever even want to look at a game when I'm at work. Like I like to just.
I think
be
that's
full,
very smart.
But I'm like fully encompassed there because I just find it exhausting to be constantly diverting my attention. And I would like, for example, I'd do like thumbnails on lunch or something like that. Where I don't even like to do that. It's
You
like
want
when
to get
I'm
out
at
of the
work-
mindset of your grinding work.
I'm at work, and then when I'm here, I have 3 days, and then I just focus on content here. And so it's like mainly just trying to find what I want to do, like what I want to cover. But like that's how I like to manage it, where it's like I just kill it at work and then I kill it here on YouTube.
Sure.
And so when it comes to like being able to passively grind it, I don't want to even bother with it because it's like when people say that they're doing that at work, it's like it's very easy to get distracted, and then I'm sitting there doing that when I could be actually
I think
working
that's
and stuff.
fair. But as far as Star Rail goes, it's by Mahoyaverse, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
believe-
it's the same company that did Genshin,
Right.
And I'm curious to see how well it does, or because it's what I think is cool is how many platforms it's going to be on. It's on like PlayStation, Xbox, already on PC. I already have it pre-downloaded on PC on my phone, so you're going to be able to take your account regardless
Wait,
of what.
you say it's
console.
on Xbox?
I believe it's on Xbox, PlayStation, PC, and
I had
mobile.
no idea it was on Xbox.
Yeah, well, I know it's on PlayStation, but I don't know if it's on Xbox. Maybe it's on both. But
Oh man, I
have-
really hope it's on there. I just got an Xbox S, so I kind of really hope it's on Xbox because that's
Oh, we can
that's
just
one
we
to
can
get.
look it up. Let's just check it.
So I will say one thing about Star Rail while you're looking it up, which is that I'm okay with anime aesthetics. Like I thought Genshin looked nice. I do hope it's not one of those games where every single character is like triple D's. Every single character is barely wearing any clothes, and they're all gross. I kind of hope like maybe there's some edgy dudes, dude with a scythe or something. I'm a sucker for those, which I know are just as cringe. But like I like that, so I kind of hope there's characters I actually want.
I think that I do want to talk about these kind of games.
Did you find the answer though?
Yeah, the answer is currently no news on whether. Okay, so release on PC, Android, iOS devices, and PlayStation in the near future. There's currently no news on whether the game will launch on Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox Series X
So
and S.
probably no, because
Yeah.
the PlayStation was released for Genshin, but they didn't release Genshin for Xbox.
PlayStation versions of the game are confirmed to be coming at a later date. So, okay, that's
so it's-
a bummer. I'm not nearly as
yeah, that's
excited
an
as
L,
it was.
but anyway,
I was
you were
hoping
saying-
it was going to be like a Diablo, where it's like you can just play it wherever.
Yeah, that's very smooth with Diablo 4. You do have to buy the game multiple times. But I want to hear your point. You were going to talk about Star Rail.
When it comes to these games, it's like, so I do like gotchas, but they're really doubling down on the sexual aspect of these games, and like
Very heavily.
Yeah, and I think it's only going to get worse because of I was looking at like the top grossing anime games like literally yesterday, and Nike is like number 3.
Which like Nike is the type of game which I don't even care if it's a good game. It is so over the top that I cannot open that around other people.
Yeah, I'm never gonna play that. Like, because it's a popular game and it's gotcha. It probably could do well on YouTube, but I'm not gonna associate with a game.
I
like
turned
that.
down like if a sponsor is going to ask me, I have one for another game called like Idle Angels or something. Well, I looked at it and it was literally the shot of the opening background page is a girl spread wide and like a G-string like this, and she's like, it's like I'm not going to open this around people.
not
like
gonna-
I mean,
not
people are
gonna
going to
play
be like, what are you doing?
It's so cringe. Yeah,
It's a little weird, and also like. I don't understand why it works, because once you as the guy, it's obviously targeted for guys. Okay, let's just be blatant about it. So if it's targeted towards guys, once you see the shallow level of, I'm not of marketing targeting, where they're like, they think so little of you as the consumer, they can throw a giant pair of tits on a character and you're going to spend $1,000 to get her.
Yep. And I think this argument, for me, just kind of thinking about it as we're discussing it, feels very much like the same argument we have with clickbait.
It works, yeah.
Because it's an unfortunate reality that it works, and they're getting paid out. Like, Nike's going like, they might not even want to do that, but it's like, well, they did it and it's successful.
That's a great point. It could be exactly like the faces I do on my thumbnails.
Yeah,
like, I don't, people laugh at them and stuff, and people ask, why do you do that? Because I have to. Like, I don't want to.
Works.
I think I look stupid.
Yeah. And I like, imagine doing those, like, you know, there's been multiple YouTubers caught like accidentally going live when they're doing and like they don't want to be doing that, but they realize that they have to because it's effective. And I think that's also what's going on in the gacha gaming industry, where it's just like, okay, well, they did double C, like, fuck it, I got to go triple D's now. You mean, like, and unfortunately, it's working. But I feel like when it comes to Genshin, at least it was kind of classy when it came to it. Yes, there's
Genshin
obviously waifus, but it was like it wasn't over the top crazy. Maybe. Well, that's also I only played during like the first couple months, so maybe it's gone off the rails. So I don't want to say that, but also,
they also had Genshin also had the opportunity for you to have characters that did not look like that. So like if I wanted to play the game and I played, you know, like Diluc, for instance, because he's a ginger, I'm a ginger, but I also just like the edgy dudes in the trench coat with a big sword, like whatever. That's my version of the cheesy that I like. And at least there was the option to choose my cringe. Like, okay, I don't want to walk around in public with somebody in a G-string in my phone and be like, someone looks over my phone and be like, what the, like this guy, weird.
Pervert shit.
Yeah, weird stuff. And then so it's like, okay, I don't want to look like a weirdo or even cover the games like in a YouTube video where it's just, I feel weird about it. You know what I mean? Whereas if at least there's other characters in the game where it's like, okay, we have the option. If you like it, so be it. You know, maybe I'm clowning on you a little bit if you're super into it, but it is what it is. But if you have the other options, that people like me who will absolutely not play the game if that's all the characters are. I don't care how well it would work on YouTube. If it's all female characters and that's all they are, I'm just not gonna play the game because I don't like it. But if you give me some options of other characters to play with, so that if I'm walking around in public, at least I don't have to have these characters out and you know.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Because it's the one that is weird that I have direct experience with was Guardian Tales, and and so that game, I didn't even notice. It was like it took a while, and they had one husbando in Garam, but then it was all women. The whole game was women, and then I didn't realize it until I was like, oh, I'm playing this game that's all girls, and of course the the big tits and all that. But then where it was really eye opening is the game was doing well in Japan, and they had a Japan release, and then they had Japan specific art, and you can actually take the character and change the character from the traditional version, and the game was made in South Korea, or as a South Korean company, but then they would have the Japanese art for each character, and then it doubled down. Like you would see a character actively, it was just, it would cringe me out. And I don't want to be associated with that.
Yeah, and I think having cosmetics or something that allow you to do that as optional is fine. If people want to have that, they should have the ability to be able to have that if they want. And I think D4 does it nicely where it's like there's some underboob. If that's what you really want to see, you can wear the cosmetics, transmogrify into that if you want. And the characters themselves are naturally attractive, like good-looking characters. So be. I'm not saying that all the characters have to be ugly.
I feel like a D4 has everyone's looking ugly. Like you think so? In D4, like everyone has this kind of, and I kind of like the aesthetic that they're going for, where it's like this is a hard place to live. And they're kind of...
They look brew, though. Yeah, they look worn down.
Like, yeah, exactly. I think worn down is a good way to talk about the people in Diablo 4. And I think that fits the vibe way more than these massive triple D characters these other games...
That could be a good point, because it could also be us where it's like, this is the genre. Like, this is what the genre is, and we're going into a genre that's not ours.
Yeah, because there's another... there was a controversy in Guardian Tales where they would cover up some of the, and then everyone was pissed.
Yeah,
and so it's
like, people were mad about D4, but I think it was the Amazon was like a boobalicious type of person in D2, and they were the top most upvoted one in forums. I talked about Echo Hack with this. The most upvoted forum post in BattleNet was that they didn't have a big boobalicious character. I mean, that was literally like one of the largest complaints and what I thought was good sex. So I recognize that this could be just a.
I feel like it's one of those situations. It could be a differing opinions, but I think this is the right opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like obviously the numbers are disagreeing with us when it comes to the revenue, but in terms of like how I feel as just a human walking around playing this game, like if it's highly inappropriate, I can't.
Show me which character you're building.
It's like, well, okay, and then you open it. I feel like that's not an unreasonable thing, but you could also just be sharing it with other people, and there's disclaimers that you could just be playing it with other people who like the type of thing. It's just the anime style. I'm not really an anime, so I'm not into the culture as much. I watch just the basic ones that everyone's watched, so I could be completely out of my element here. But for me, I would not play the game if it's only girls and they're only with giant titties and they're wearing as little clothes as possible. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable.
It makes me uncomfortable too, basically. So I think we're on the same page there. But I am excited to have another Gacha, and it sounds like you're playing to free to play. I think is your plan.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go free to play. I feel like when it comes to these games, it's like I've spent in quite a few of them. But I feel like there's always going to be a time where I'll look at it and just not give a shit anymore.
100%.
And then once it happens, it's like, and I'm just going to expedite that to the front of the game where it's like, and then also I feel like I've genuinely thought, and I think that this, if I want to make the best content, I think spending is usually needed to be able to understand it. And also, you want to be ahead of the game and ahead of the curve, because usually when you spend, you're seeing the game in a couple months, so you can actually give pretty good advice. Also, it's a slippery slope because the advice could be out of touch, where you don't realize the actual pain points.
These are very good points.
Yeah, so it's like there's both aspects to that. I just want to make sure, like, what I want to do is I want to go full free to play and then experience those pain points, but also it's hard for me to say because I feel like there's certain things I'm going to miss out if I don't spend, where it's like, if I do spend, I can learn a few things. But I'm going to try it this way, see if I can still kind of understand what it's like and give good advice or whatever, even from being a free-to-play player. But it's just from a pure profit standpoint on a channel, I'm going to make way more money probably if I...
Well, the problem is
spend.
The games are so ridiculously expensive, and it's like YouTube, even if you're doing if you're in the 1%, of YouTube, like you're still not really making like a ton of money. So it's like it's spending thousands of dollars on these games. At least for me, okay, I speak for myself. I can't spend multiple thousands of dollars a month on a game. I can't afford to do that. So it's like I don't know how to
killing it on YouTube to like
you have to have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and be getting millions of views. Because I mean, even at my peak, like my absolute peak of YouTube in my last 5 years was I made like $7,000 a month off ad revenue before we talked about taxes and all that, and I'm down to way less than like half of that. Okay, so that's at a peak for the largest launch I've ever had, and it was for 1 month. And it's like I spent $3,000 in that same game, so the numbers don't really make a lot of sense. And now if it's like you're making $3,000 a month or something, like how are you going to spend $500 when you make $3,000? Like the money's not there to do it.
Completely agree, even with write-ups and stuff like that, because people, a lot of YouTubers will be like, oh, I'm writing this up and stuff like that. And that's one of the big things that I think people watching these people spending this money should keep in mind, is that they can write that off and know that, yes, a lot of people, it doesn't add up. Like I've seen people making like no views and they're coming in and they're like buying every character and doing all this stuff. It's like, you can copium all you want that this is a business investment, but it is not.
You're losing your money. I mean, the math isn't there.
Yeah. And yes,
the write-off thing is like such a red herring too, because people are like, "Oh, write it off." That is the joke that we tell ourselves to tell it's okay. I still have to fork out the money for it. That $100 when I buy a pack in a game is gone either way. It doesn't matter if I'm going to write it off in a year.
Like, well, you're writing off like a percentage. It's only, like instead of paying 100, you're basically paying like
60 or 70, it's
something like that. So then there's that. So you're getting a discount there, but also, still, it's really, did that extra 70 you're spending make your content now much better? I think sometimes you can argue yes. My issue with it is that it's a slippery slope on when when the spending stops to where it's like, okay, I've gotten as much as I can get where I can actually provide more value. And when it's turned on, it's hard for me to turn it off. So I'm just going to turn it off from the beginning.
Yeah.
And try to make as good a content as I possibly can. I've done a few of these games in the past, and hopefully I can still provide the same level of quality content while being free to play. It is how I'm looking to justify it. And it's going to be easier for me to do it by just not spending.
And I know spending the money is copium in the game anyway, because I've played free to play well enough to see the free to play series' work. And I've also spent enough money to know that a lot of the money I've spent in games was literally for my own enjoyment as compared to like the audience's enjoyment. Like I'm buying dopamine for myself, and then I share that video and recoup some of the losses. So I do think that your point about going free to play is this might be a conversation where it's like, if you're not a YouTuber, you don't give a fuck about any of this. But
this is pretty inside baseball. But I think also, I think people are getting wise to. I think eventually people are going to want to hear this kind of stuff, because like this is like, gacha games are relatively new, but understanding and I think it's important from a viewer that doesn't understand the numbers and doesn't understand like how are these people affording this.
I think most times they think YouTubers make more than they do.
Yeah, I would say I think in a lot of situations I think they think they make far less, and then also in some situations I think they also think that we make far more, but also I think they might think we get way bigger stipends from the company.
That is a very true point. Yeah. It's like trying to get anything out of a company in terms of in-game rewards is borderline impossible in games these days. Some content creation programs have that, like Raid has that very blatantly, transparently. Yeah. And there's been some games I've played in the past where they'll just hand you stuff when you ask. Raid is the same one I'm thinking before. They had the open, transparent things. Like, I need legendary books. Here you go. Here's some legendary books. And that was like, some people got that and some people did not. So it's sort of unfair.
It was blatantly unfair, but at the same time, they're looking at it from the perspective of, hey, like you're making content, you're showing the things. And I think
promotional cost for them.
Yeah, it's a promotional thing. And also it makes perfect sense. Like, I would want the content creators getting free stuff to tell me, as long as they're using it correctly. Yeah. Because then there's other situations where people would be like, oh, I can't do this. Like, I just maxed out this character. It's like 1% of people are maxing out this character. So you're not doing anything that's helping the community. So it's like there's a constant sliding scale, a constant slippery slope here on spending, and then also getting resources from the company that like ideally it just wouldn't be a thing. It just shut it all down. But at the same time, if you're doing it genuinely, which is impossible to say because you're like the sole arbiter of am I doing it genuinely? It makes sense. So.
I think most people, if you told them like, hey, look, I'm trying to make content, explain everything day one. This is a test server. It's not on the real server. Then people don't care. But I think it's if you take resources from a company, from a company that allow you basically have infinite resources, you use that to say, I'm the best in the world with it, you climb ranks in PvP, then you have a problem.
Because with Raid, it's, yes, you could probably push, but like it's so crazy to push in arena now.
Raid is,
who gives a shit? And also, Raid is weird too because even if you are top in arena, you don't get shit for doing it.
Well, you don't get shit.
Like you're getting nowadays. I think you get gear and stuff like that, and I bet the top 0.001% would argue against me, but like compared to other games, the rewards don't match up.
Well, the other part is like, okay, so content and Raid is they constantly are pumping out champions, so they're giving you enough resources not even to max out one champion. Like you just can't do it with the resources they give you. So what they're doing is to be able to cover the new ones, they do that, etc.
Which I think is perfect, where it's like people
and it's
want
transparent.
to know.
Everyone knows what you get, so it pops right up and everything. So.
Well, but then there would be like other games where it's like they won't say anything, and then people will be streaming, and then they'll get rewards, and then they'll have to cover it up and stuff like that. Well, like that is where it's potentially a problem. But a lot of those games are like single player games.
Well, I'm starting to come around to mobile gamers' a belief on this, which is I don't want anything from the company. Like I just all it's going to do is get in the way. Like, I just want to make content. I'll buy it myself. I want to play the game. I don't want any drama from this. I just want to see real, like, it just getting involved with the company in terms of, like, give me freebies and all this is only ever a problem. And I think he's, honestly, he might be right on the money.
I think that's a really good point because just like what I was saying when it comes to the free to play, and then it's like arguing the benefits and the drawbacks. Yep. Let's just remove that completely.
Exactly.
And then never even have to bother with it. And I think that's probably the move. But then there's other games, like, for example, I'm playing Infinite Magic Raid, very similar to Raid, but like it's impossible for me to make content on this game without the help or like and it's like this game is not popular enough to where it's like I'm ever going to justify spending, you know, that much to do it. So it's like, okay, you got to hook it up, and then they don't want to do that.
Leave your game.
Yeah. They don't want to do it. So it's just like, all right, well, I'm not going to be able to provide any value to people watching this, so it's like, screw it.
I think Awakened Chaos was a good example where it's like, I only broke even on Awakened Chaos. It was arguable I was the largest content creator in Awakened Chaos. I think there might have been one other guy that maybe beat me. I don't remember. But anyway, at that point, it didn't matter. Like, I literally can't make a profit on that game.
Yeah.
Like, it's impossible.
The numbers don't add up on a niche down game unless you're either hooking it up to where we can actually make the content, or we just go full free to play.
You go full free to play, which is kind of what I've just been spending less and less and less year after year after year. Because Raid was the most money I've ever spent. I mean, I spent way too much money. I was buying stuff all the time. I was getting donations where people would be like, buy this pack, here's $100. I'd buy the pack, I'd open it and all that for the excitement, because we did a lot of live streaming. But then I learned very quickly that even though you're getting money to pay the packs and you think, oh, it's a free pack, it's not, because you have to pay taxes on that money later. So got hit with that the first year and reality check, and was like, I can't just take donations to buy packs and games over and
one. Yeah,
can't go one for one.
Yeah,
you get fucked on the back end. So I learned a lot of lessons there, and then I also realized, like, kind of what you're saying, where being free to play, people can see you struggle, and the struggle itself can be the content as opposed to needing to be the best. So I do think that sometimes being free, I actually think Imtosh, you remember Imtosh from Genshin Impact? He's been free to play now in Genshin Impact for a long time.
Okay.
And his free to play series goes very well, and he's very strong as a free to play, and he's considering in Star Wars, I follow him on Twitter, going free to play as well, or welling out. And it seems like most people actually want to see him. It was like 78% on his Twitter poll or something. People actually want to see him play free to play instead of well.
I think that's just it's just better, and it makes it to where, because it's like, my logic was I want to be ahead so I can see where the issues are going to be in the future and where to put your resources, where is like where it's bad or where it's good, you know,
or
like for example these like like showcases of the characters, so it's like you could wail out on a particular hero and you show that hero off kind of thing. But
like in Diablo more though, if you want to see how a gym works at its maximum rank, you search for JT is All Business. Yeah. He has a video which are pretty well done in every single gym all the way.
That is an example of something that you're not helping anyone, in my opinion. Like, because almost zero people. Okay, maybe
I kind of don't agree.
Okay, so like, but I feel like he's showing it from a perspective of like such an insane amount that it's like so little of the percentage of the people, like he's like a spectacle where it's like it's so crazy.
Okay, yes.
Where it's like, okay, I'm interested because it's like, here's something I'm never going to see.
So you're talking about the hook, but not about the videos I mentioned. So like his JT All Business hook is, I spent $100,000 in Diablo Immortal. People aren't going to do that. They can't afford to do that. So if you're judging him based upon the man that's been $100K, the most well-known in the game.
What I'm judging it on is specifically him maxing at a gym. No one maxes at a gym. Like, it's just only like, you know, very, very small percentage of whales, because we're talking maxing at a gym is like in the 20K range. You know, to do that.
I just don't agree. Okay, so I first of all, it costs $6,000 to max out a gym, which is ridiculous, and we're not going to disagree.
So $6,000.
It's $6,000 to max out a gym, which is ridiculous. And so if you're looking at the perspective, how many people are about to spend? I'm going to spend $6,000 on this one gym. Let me go watch this video, and he helped them. You're correct.
Yeah.
However, my point of view is showcases and being able to see the data of something is useful input regardless. So it's
because I feel like there's a massive difference between so. I'm not arguing that it's completely useless. I just consider that is where it's so crazy that it's not really doing a service to the community, because a very small percentage of people are ever going to do it. Whereas, for example, a showcase where it's like, I spent $100 and I got this character, and showcasing that is that's worlds apart.
Yeah, we agree there. We agree there.
And that's what I'm saying. Where it's like, when he does a showcase saying, "Oh, here, I'm going to max at a gym."
Well, that's fine. I agree with that, but I'm just pushing back on the point that like JT is not helping anybody by making his content. Like, I think that's like kind of harsh and just factually not true.
I think a lot of his content does help. I was saying that particular content, in my opinion, does not help.
Well, I mean, I understand your point. I also say that because it's like, I myself have literally looked up his videos to see how they function, so that I can see how well they work going into the future of that gym. Like, a lot of times those gyms are things you grind like 6 months to a year. So you have to know at the end point that you're trying to get to, how much the thing scales.
That was the big issue for me. I don't know if it's changed in Diablo Immortal, but like you were never going to finish it, because in most mobile games you can look at the person who whaled and know that I'll eventually get there in a year.
Yeah.
Whereas you will never get there in Diablo
No
Immortal.
argument.
And
No
that's
argument.
my point, where it's like, okay, you're not helping anyone because literally no one's ever going to get there unless they whale a shitload. And yes, for the people that have $6,000 to spend on a gym, sure, you're helping them.
Sure.
But that is my issue. Whereas in most of these mobile games, you can whale out and finish something, and then eventually all the free to play will catch up to that thing.
Would
and
you
then
believe...
you're showcasing it for them.
Okay, that's fair. Well, do you believe that, like, let's say a fully maxed out raid character with insane gear? You know how this is a very similar point that people were complaining about, which is like you would take your best gear that content creators have and just put on every new champion and showcase them being insane.
I didn't like that at all. Like, I think it. Like that's my issue with showcases when they do that, and then that's that slippery slope between people that spend money and don't, because it's like, okay, you have crazy gear. Like, I'll watch people, and I like to watch like MacChan, for example. He's crazy whale.
Yeah, MacChan's good. Yeah,
and he'll put all this gear, but he'll be like, this is not a guide, this is a showcase, and he'll like specifically say that it's like, this is what can happen, this is the craziest gear. He'll be like the world's strongest whatever, and people are going into that knowing that it's like, this is the framing
of the content that you're mostly worried about.
How you want to convey it, where it's like, if you're trying to be like, oh, here's a guide on this gym, this is what you can expect when it's, but like, no free-to-play player is ever going to get there, so you're not helping the majority of the player base.
Sure.
And when it comes to, and I think that's another issue why people have a problem with those guides in Raid, is because they'll never get there to that gear, because that's thousands of dollars worth of gear, or what that is a ton of the free stuff that they got from the content creator program. And then after 2 years of having that content creator rewards, it's very hard to be in touch with the community.
I think that's a good point. That's what that kind of brings
even with the best intentions.
We can meet in the middle on that one, because I actually do kind of agree with those points, where it's just which is that you can get out of touch by whaling, and you can if you don't experience the pain points yourself, like it's really hard to get there. And I do understand the point of like people aren't going to spend $6,000 on a gym. Yeah. So if you're trying to like, here's the rank 10 power only, etc. Like
here's a showcase of
that.
what you can see, and you know how the effects change, because you know at 5 and 7 and whatever there'll be big jumps, and it's like, oh, here's an interesting thing you can expect if you do this. Cool. I think it's not an issue with the video; it's an issue with Diablo Immortal's progression system, where it's impossible to ever get there over time. Whereas like, if you can free to play grind for a year and eventually max out a gym, then I think I would never have an issue with that.
I think that's fair.
That's not an issue with this video. That's an issue with the game.
Yeah. I think that's fair. No, I think that's true. The only reason I push back a little bit is because I see JT get a lot of heat from this, for the same reason, where it's.
I completely agree that he gets a lot of unfair, because I think people turn the brain off. They hear $100,000, turn the brain off. Let's dunk on it.
That's exactly what happened. And I hate that stuff, because it's like, no, it doesn't matter if there's a small audience for it. There's an audience for it. Like there's people that watch Quinn because they legitimately agree with everything you say. Then there's people that watch Quinn because it's a clown show. Like there's a reason. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you're not going to think he's going to be the next president, but he's an entertaining guy. And I think JT is not necessarily trying to say that like, I am the knowledge point for all things ranked 10 gyms, as much as here's what it looks like. And that's kind of why, like, I always felt bad, because I still see people like kind of give him shit for the same point. But it sounds like you agree with this point, so we're not really arguing about it, because I just felt bad for the guy, because he got flamed a lot, because he went all in on the game with the 100K thing, and then so many people made videos about him, and got, which I guess is kind of the point. Well, like, you are buying the exposure.
I'm glad, like, if anything, I'm glad the pushback, so I can clearly see the point.
Yeah.
Where it's like I have like a reason behind why.
Well, it's a legitimate reason.
Yeah, and totally why I would disagree. Like, I think that video is, you know.
Well, I think what it is you make that point about any other game, not specifically about when I bring up the rank 10 gym. I just instantly agree with you. You know, like I did earlier when you're saying you become a whale, you become untouched. It's kind of the same point, really.
Yeah.
Really, so I agree with you. But anyway, so that's the breakdown of that. So Star Rail is the 25th, 9 p.m. our time.
Yep. What is that?
11 PDT.
That's like,
I think.
It would be,
well, it's 11 p.m. PDT anyway, so I guess it's 10 o'clock our time.
10 o'clock
right?
our time. Okay. Well,
but yeah, I mean, yeah. So we'll actually know
when Mandalorian would drop.
11. It's 11 our time.
Okay,
It's,
here, can I just bitch about UTC?
Okay.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't understand. What is the intention of UTC? Because it is the biggest pain in the fucking ass I've ever seen when it comes to this. Like, trying to figure out times. It's UTC -5, UTC -8, whatever. Okay, so now I got to put in a damn... I got to go to Wolfram Alpha to like decipher exactly when the time is going to be. Yes, I understand that the world doesn't want to use timing from America. I get that. They don't want to be like, I'm in France and then you, but
we have some weird metrics.
This is not a clean way to do time at all. Because
what's your suggestion? What's the fix?
I don't. I just want to rant because all these damn games use UTC time, and it's the biggest pain in the ass in the world. So I don't fucking know what time it was. I literally just gave up. I gave up on the time because then they'll be like, it's Tuesday UTC time. Okay, is that their Tuesday because they're in their time zone because they're a Chinese company? So Tuesday for them is actually Monday for me, and then now I have to go.
No, it's Tuesday. Everything is UTC, and everything else varies off UTC. So the only number.
But then it's like UTC -5 or something like that. So it could put it back in time. So what if it's UTC time was like? I obviously don't understand it that well, but it's not made to work well. And I think it's the worst thing ever. I can't stand it because I'm so sick of these damn. I know a lot of these companies are from China and stuff like that. So it's like I'm constantly all backwards or whatever.
I just sat here getting confused on the time, like 5 minutes, like 5 minutes in a row. Like,
so
is it 11?
Let's figure this out in real time.
So I think what it is Pacific time exactly at midnight on the 26th.
Okay, so Pacific time, okay, at midnight. So
26th, the morning of the 26th, basically. Okay, so 12:01 a.m.
Okay, because if that would mean that it's 11 o'clock our time.
That's what I'm thinking. Because I'm realizing I saw 11 and I backtracked it from 11, but it was already scaled to my time. Like it did it in the app.
Okay, so release time. Okay, release. Okay, April 25th at 7 p.m. PDT.
So that's 6 p.m. tomorrow.
So yeah, that would be 6 p.m. our time.
I don't know what I saw then.
For the West Coast of North America, April 25th at 10 p.m. EDT. Why are you doing that?
Well, I mean, it doesn't actually change. No, there's difference. Okay, so EDT.
Yeah, that would be 6 p.m.
Wait,
for
is
us.
EDT and Eastern Standard the same?
Yeah, Eastern is 4 hours ahead of us.
No, that's EST is 4 hours ahead of us. So is
what
EDT,
is EDT?
That's what I'm saying. Is EDT the same as Eastern Standard Time?
EDT, Eastern Daylight Time. What the fuck is Eastern Daylight Time?
Okay, what time EDT is it right now?
Time.
Type in EDT now. Hold on, I'm gonna figure this out.
EDT down. I got it loading. 11:47 p.m.
So it's 4 hours ahead. So it's the same. It's the same
Eastern
fucking thing as standard.
EDT is Eastern time. Yeah, okay. So
Okay.
I knew, yeah.
So EDT and EST are the same thing. They just change names based upon if it's daylight or not.
Yeah,
That is a bullshit. How are you going to tell me UTC is worse than that shit?
Well, that's a weird... So, because are we currently in EDT or EST? Oh, it changes.
That's what I'm saying. It's EST when it's one, it's EDT and the other.
Shit.
So now I've always been confused on that. I just now learned that at 32, what EDT and EST are the same fucking thing. And wait, why would you even name it different? We're still 4 hours different.
It's stupid.
Oh, PST and PDT are the same thing.
I don't... My brain is
just
fucking...
realizing they
don't
change
like
the
this.
S and the D depending upon daylight.
Yes.
That's so fucking stupid.
Yeah, that's really dumb.
I feel like this is a clip like Kyra and DM learn how time works.
Yeah, that'd be a good. But like, it's so stupid because it would make sense if there was a change in the time. Like, oh, it's 4 hours ahead normally, but in EST it's
still
3 hours.
4 hours.
It's 4 hours both times.
It changes for everyone. So why not just call it PT? Or
just call it
time, Eastern time.
Eastern time.
You don't need the extra letter.
Yeah, and then just call it.
That is dog shit. Wait,
who made this?
That is worse than UTC.
I want to speak to the manager.
That is worse than UTC. Can we agree on that? That is worse than UTC.
That aspect is worse. But UTC, normally, I just look at it and go, don't fucking know. Every time UTC happens, and people go like, oh, just look it up. And it's like, I shouldn't have
Every time you have to look it up.
Every time I have to look it up. I had to do UTC -5, UTC -8, UTC +12. Like,
and then don't forget GMT.
Oh, yeah.
We're like GMT 9 or something, right?
If you have to use GMT, just get out of here. Just get like... Like, I don't know. It's like they don't want people to play their game on time. Like, oh, here's the game code on. Let's just put a fucking algorithm or some kind of puzzle to be able to figure out the time.
And then they have to do 18 different ones. Like Eastern comes out here, and this one comes out then, but they all come out at the same fucking time.
Yeah.
So
that's fucking
all right.
stupid.
Well, anyway,
Okay.
that's this podcast, I think, right? Is that
Oh, if someone in the comments can just tell me an easy way to use UTC, sure. I would love to be wrong here. If I'm wrong and there's an easy way to do this, fantastic. Like, you're helping me out.
I think what they want you to do is memorize what UTC is. So you can always say UTC is this right now. And then you just from there, you minus n plus whatever. Like, I think they just, if you know what UTC is, so like, let's say it's 5 hours ahead of us and you just always know that, like it's 7, so it's midnight.
Well, because that's my issue with UTC should just be, oh, it's at 7 UTC. It should always be, and then I guess you need to learn your minus. So it's like,
yeah.
But when they go, it's at this +8, and you're changing it, I feel like it's a big.
Why not just say what the UTC is?
Yeah, and then we figure it out.
Okay, you're right. They're like, fuck you, I'm going to say my time, UTC.
Yeah.
You know what? You're right. That is a terrible system.
Yes.
They should just say UTC.
It should be and then we minus it off our own.
We're going to come up with our own version of time.
To the two brother.
And we're going to lease it out to all the countries.
It's TBP time. We're going to come up with TBP time. And
what time UTC does our podcast release on Tuesdays?
What time? It's going to release at...
You can't do the math. We can't do it. Yeah. It releases when it releases, everybody.
It comes out when it comes out.
We'll get there when we get there.
So our release time on our TBP time frame, we'll have our podcast be the 0. And so like
that's good.
Yeah, and then
that's good.
So
all right, everybody.
All right. I think that's the pod.
That's the pod.
There it is.
We had some topics, some heated debate. We almost came to blows several times during the podcast. Very obviously,
it was wild. It was wild. Good thing cooler heads prevailed. Still don't understand how time works.
Yeah. I think it's wrong. That's and UTC is a W, but all right, so be it. Oh, never mind. It's dog shit. I don't know.
The narrative is dog shit. I'm gonna look more into it and see if I'm just stupid.
It's the children that are wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
Children that are wrong. All right.
So,
bye, everybody.
Guys, it's been real.